You know, a lot of people want to label themselves certain things, and to me, it's just an excuse. I know that there are valid and legitimate situations, whether it's health or you know, or this or that, that stifle progress or may limit your potential on things that you're able to do in this world. But I also think that there's it's going to get me in trouble. There's so many lazy, stupid people, and they're looking for a way out. They're looking for some kind of victimhood. They're looking for a label. Well, I'm ADHD. ADHD is bullshit. Excuse my language. You know, you put a kid in a class for 8 hours straight, and you put yourself in a class for 8 hours straight, and see if you don't develop ADHD real quick. You know, it comes from us living our life in a very unnatural way. It comes from the rule that we have, the way that the establishment puts in the structure. And that's why we talk about creating greatness, and I'm going to talk about right here is we're breaking that structure.
What up? What up? Welcome to Real Talk, presented by the Keyword Is podcast. Real Talk is a little bit different than my normal podcast because I like to have a guest and we'll take a deep dive together. So sitting with me right now, I have Mr. Robert Prasch, aka King of Comebacks. Man, this guy has a story. I'm trying to tell you. I've been listening to his podcast. I'm on his social media, everything, man. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey, we appreciate you having me on. You know, like we mentioned before the recording, we had to juggle a little bit to make it happen, but I'm very grateful to be here, and thank you for all the kind words as an introduction. For
sure, man. So you're a dad. You know, like I said, I've been listening to your podcast and everything, man. I'm a listener now, by the way, just to let you know. And something I always like to ask my fellow dads, I have 4 kids myself. How did you prepare yourself to be a father? And I'm asking that because I just went insane. I mean, you know what I mean? I wasn't sleeping. I was stressing out. I was reading every book I could find, all of that, man. So how did you prepare yourself to be a dad?
Oh, man, you know, I would like to have some great answer for you, but it was sort of the same thing, man. I mean, me and my wife were it was very obvious to the both of us that like this was the thing. You know, we had both experienced some very toxic relationships and, you know, bad experiences with dating and love. So with us, our meeting, you know, it was just written in the stars, man. The energies of the universe aligned, and we met each other, and everything started falling into place. It took some time. It took some work. And that is like with the fatherhood thing, man. We knew we wanted each other. We knew we wanted a family. We jumped into it. But I don't know that there is anything in this world that is actually going to prepare you for the reality of having children. I will say this, you know, there's books, there's guides, there's advice. It's very difficult, though, because each child is uniquely different and they respond and react differently to different things. So as I thought I was mastering this thing with my firstborn and you know, getting everything right, then here comes the curveball, my middle son, who was very different. And then my third son and my final son, who is even different than them both. I will say my middle son and my youngest son got a better father than my first son in the beginning because it's such a learning curve. But I think if you pay attention, you love and you care and you put your all into it, and you're able to admit when you're wrong and accept fault and talk to your child and explain to them when you're enforcing different rules and all those things, it comes together. It comes together quite nicely. You just got to keep at it.
Yeah, definitely. See, right now, what I'm working out of is I was on the super dad approach, and I didn't realize what I was doing was like stifling my kids. Like I was trying to like just do everything. Like, and my kids are young, so I have 6, 5, 4, and 2. So during those like kind of toddler going into, you know, you independence, they get a little older. I was like, I'm a like just do everything, like to the point where my teaching was lacking. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't necessarily like showing them how to like navigate through things by themselves. And I'm just now kind of breaking that. Me and my wife together kind of just now like breaking that, where it's like, all right, like you make this decision and you are going to kind of deal with what happens next, and not big decisions, but, you know, just young decisions. Like, you know, I'm telling you to come over here and do this. This is what we're doing now. If you don't do that, you're gonna have to deal with a consequence, or you're gonna have to deal with, you don't want to go to sleep right now. I'm telling you, lay down. And you laying in the bed and you staring at the roof. All right, you're gonna be tired in the morning. Things like that. You know what I mean? When before,
no, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, in the bed, patting them on the back, like, you know, and it's like.
No, I mean, I think you mentioned two very important key factors in the whole parenting gig, and it's you're working with your wife to break out of bad habits. So when, first of all, you're aware that you had a bad habit, that's the first step to solving any problem. And then two, if you're doing this thing right and you have the partner that you're supposed to have, and you're in it all together, man, you always have that support, that two brains, that two eyes are better than one sort of scenario. And that's how we always did it. And to be able to let go of your children and allow them to make mistakes, as you said, small ones, in the safety and most safe environment as best as you possibly could do it, it's very important, because especially, well, in any gender, but I'm raising young men, and I also have young children like yourself, so God bless you. I know that you're busy. Mine are 8, 6, and almost 4 is my youngest. So we're in there. I'm right in there with you, and to allow them to fall down, make mistakes, get upset in the pursuit of higher learning, it's very difficult. But it's something that I talked about on the podcast the other day. Like, tough love is one of the highest forms of love, because when you love someone enough to be cold, be distant, be assertive with them, it's difficult to do that with someone that you love. But when you know that harshness or that little bit of negativity in the moment is going to create a greater good and a bigger lesson and less pain down the line, I think that's what we have to understand as parents. Like, we're not their friend, we are their parent. There's going to be times where we may be mean or disciplinarian, or allowing them to fail on their own. I mean, I tell this story quite a bit about my oldest son. The very first time we went to the beach, he ran into the ocean as fast as he possibly could. I followed him closely. I monitored what he was doing, but I let him fall. I let that wave hit him, and I scooped him, and it was, my wife's like, what do you do? Did he ever do it again? Will he ever do it if, God forbid, we are not looking at the moment and he's running in headlong? He learned that lesson. And it's with that same philosophy that you were talking about, that I do all things. Let them fail in the safety and comfort of my home and in my environment, and supervised, because the lessons that I'm going to teach them or allow them to learn naturally are going to be a lot less harsh than if they do not learn those lessons and then they go off into the world. The world's going to be a lot meaner, harsher, nastier than we could ever be as parents.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely agree with that. Yeah. So your name, King of Comebacks. You always when you intro the pod, you go King of Comebacks, 2 Ks. So where does this come from?
I think we're going to get into it, I mean, and certainly I believe that there are people that have came back from lower and worse situations than me. I mean, it's distributed or it's seen every day. If you are on the internet and checking out things, people come back from diseases and disabilities and near-death experiences and all these different things. But I grew up in the 90s, a little bit of bravado, a little bit of ego, a lot of hip-hop music. And it's just me. It's just my style. And I came back from a lot of things. I don't think a lot of people would put me here today in the space that I'm in if you would go back, 15, 20 years. And I remember just not wanting to go on, man. Just really being miserable, being tired of life, addicted, lonely, in and out of prisons, very self-destructive, destroying everyone and everything around me, blaming everyone because I was the victim, which was absolute nonsense. But just remember waking up every day and asking God, why could you not take me out in my sleep? I just so tired of living this way. So now that I'm able to wake up and be filled with gratitude, man, I got 3 healthy sons, a beautiful, amazing, talented intelligent wife, a comfortable life right here where I want to be in Southwest Florida. I mean, to waking up in a prison cell in Bayside State Prison, in maximum security, and the metal, the dust, the dirt, the chipping paint, and the funk of it, to wake up now in my life, where it's just absolutely, my mornings are my own. It's slow. It's with my kids. I homeschool them. I teach them. I work on my small business and my podcast. My time is my own. My life is my own. And it's absolutely glorious, man. So king of comebacks for sure, man. I came back from it, and not only coming back from it to reach an even level, I talk about this quite a bit, is like, when we face death, destruction, poverty, divorce, bankruptcy, death in the family, whatever, we may think it to be a monumental achievement to just be back to normal. I remember those times when I was suffering and I just wanted to be normal. I just wanted a relationship. I wanted a car. I wanted a job. I wanted a place to live that was my own and just function in society like a normal human being, at least what I perceive that to be. Now, my definition has changed quite a bit. But the key of comebacks really embodies that, like, no, you can come back from something that's devastating, not only to an even keel where you're like, okay, I'm maneuvering in society in a healthy and productive way, but you could go on to greatness, man. And a lot of times it's those that have been down to these deep, dark pits of life that can shine and excel forth in life because we become strong, we become disciplined, we become mentally tough. We learn these lessons on the way up that ladder, and that's why I call myself the king of comebacks, and that's why I encourage everyone else to be their own king of comebacks, man. When you come back from something that people thought that you would never come back from, you don't have to just reach that even, regular, normal life. You can exceed that and blow away everyone's expectations and your own.
So do you think like you would you say you reached your rock bottom?
Yeah, because the rock bottom is a personal thing. I mean, there is a beauty of rock bottom. If you made it to rock bottom and you're alive, you're there, that is a beauty and a silver lining within itself. But also being at rock bottom, it's desperate. You're desperate. You and it's called the gift of desperation. And when you're in that desperation, you start to see things a little more clearly. It's something that it won't be opened up to you almost. And I pray that people don't reach the form of suffering that I reached, which was my rock bottom in that prison cell with all those green sheets and just very confused and dazed and not even understanding it all. To hit that rock bottom personally, because that was me, that was mine, and people have all different ones. But what it is when the pain has reached enough, when you can no longer go on living the way that you're living because it hurts too bad. That is the rock bottom. So it could be a unique experience for everyone, and I don't wish it on anyone. But if you do, there is a desperation there, and that desperation will create willingness within you to change because the pain is immense. It's enough. It's too much, and that rock bottom really clues you in on like, who is important in your life? What is important in your life? Who's played a part in your downfall, mainly and mostly yourself? But it opens up a willingness to change. Like, I got to do something differently. I got to think outside the box. Maybe what I'm doing is not right. And that is the gift. That is the gift, that openness, that willingness to go, whoa. It opens your eyes to allow you to see with clarity. And from there, you can move forward and start fixing the things that are wrong with your life. But it's very important that I discuss it here and on Creating Greatness because I want to spare people that, spare people that feeling. Maybe you can catch yourself as you're diving into different vices or modes of thinking or modes of behavior that is not conducive to you and your best self and the well-being of you and your others, yourself and your others, and the well-being of the world. You can catch yourself, stop yourself. And that's why we talk about so many tools, techniques, and tips that spin yourself out of it and get back on the right track.
Man, it's so many it's so many places that I could go based on what you're saying. But I'm going to ask, so your mission to me, just based on what I've heard and seen, it seems to be kind of like bringing positivity. And so my question is like, some people will just, once they make their way back up, they'll just, seclude it, do their thing, it's on their own. What makes you want to kind of spread a message?
Well, A few things. First of all, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. I'm a Christian. So it's part of what I believe is that my life is a gift and it was given from God. And my obligation in this world is to share my light and to share my gift. So my light is that I made it out. I figured some things out, and my gift is speaking. I'm had the gift of gab early. I was able to maneuver in the streets very well with it. But take that gift and change it from darkness to light. So now it's sharing that light and sharing that gift with the world that God has given me. But secondarily, it was like when I started getting my life together, it was all a perspective shift. It was a change in thinking, a change in the way that I viewed the world and the universe, because it's not just you or your group of friends or your school or your job or even your family. It's not even America, your state, or the world. It's the universal view, to understand that your tragedies and triumphs are almost meaningless within the grand scope of things. Now, this doesn't minimize my feeling of significance, because I also realize that, like, hey, I'm part of this thing, man. This limitless, expansive universe, this spark of divinity that God has given me to create this life. I'm part of this thing. So however minimal my role is, I want to make it count. I want to create an impact. So I changed this mode of thinking, and I got out. I was an ex-con. I had just, got back with my wife, and we were working things out. I picked up a job making minimum wage. At the time, it was like $11 and something in New Jersey. But instead of having to start like, well, I'm making $11 an hour, I'm going to do $11 worth of work, I had a change with it. I just go, no, I'm going to do the best possible job that I could do. And why? Yeah, it's worth more than $11. But for me to put a stamp of excellence on everything that I'm able to do, for me to do everything that I can do, even if it's sweeping this floor, cleaning this bathroom, or working on this line in this warehouse, I'm going to do the best damn job that I can possibly do. And when you start to do that, people begin to take notice. Now, what I was able to do within 3 years was get promoted 5 times and triple my income, start a 401k, take that 401k, invest it in crypto, start my small business, start my podcast. I'm retired at the age of 45. Oh. Now, let's just be clear here. We are a dual income household. So whatever I make small now, it's less than what I was making at my job. But with that, and me and my wife were able to put this thing together and make it work. But while I worked at that job, I was very frustrated because I was working in the food industry, and I found like this is not impactful. This is not meaningful. And one of my bosses at the time to me said, well, what do you really want to do? And I said, I want to help people. And the reason why I wanted to help you was because I looked at it. I went into the warehouse every day. I came in through the ground level just like everyone else. And I seen people sad, sick, suffering, addicted, barely dragging themselves through the day, barely getting to work, just waiting for that smoke break, complaining about their life all day long. And I would just think, if they only understood, that was me, 5, 6, 10 years ago at that point, if they only knew the limitless source of energy that we have access to here in this universe that will solve most of our problems. And that is, meditation, yoga, prayer, physical exercise, changing your diet, to, healthy, whole, organic foods. These simple changes, they want you to think that you have to buy into some program, buy some product, take this supplement, get this coach or this personal trainer or, whatever. And it really is absolutely false. Those things can enhance your life. They can support the changes that you're making. They can help give you a kickstart. But really, what we need to do is detoxify ourselves, detoxify our bodies, get out in the sun, get some fresh air, get some sun on our skin, eat these healthy foods I'm talking about, get the physical exercise, tap into the soul, tap into the spirit, the meditation, the yoga, and all these different things. And that will solve like 75% of your problems. It absolutely did for me. So as my boss says, hey, you can't help people here while you're doing this. I took that and I ran with it. I started talking to the people every day. I'm asking how their families are, how they are, what are they working on besides work, mentoring folks, and just really talking them up. And some of the younger kids that worked for me, God bless them, they still listen to the show, and I appreciate y'all. They said, you need to start a podcast. And at the time, I had no idea what a podcast even was. I didn't know how to start it, but that is the clarity and the energy that you get through these tips and tools that I'm talking about. It's like, now I'm on fire with it. Like, really? A podcast? What's that? Boom, Google. What's the easiest way to podcast? Anchor, Spotify, and then it's all like, it's all It's all she wrote, except for the evolution of the thing, because I started just talking to the phone, just speaking my heart. And then, you know, you see how it all adapts and flows and evolves, just like life itself. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's funny. The talking to the phone, I used to do the same thing. Like,
yeah,
talking there, got my segments going, and then I'm like, let me get on camera. So you kind of touched on a little bit about the things that you do on a daily, which includes like the working out and the meditation. How did you find out what things were going to make you feel better on the daily? I'm sure it took some time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, that's the tough part. And that's once again back to the purpose of the podcast, is because like I remember suffering like the people that I spoke about before, and like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to listen to. You know, I didn't know how to make myself feel better. So with that rock bottom moment that I spoke of earlier, I just had that shift in perspective. Now, I had been to state prison 4 times, and the 3 times previously, first thing I would do is go in and find the contraband, get into trouble, find the poker table, find the card table, and get into that, and maybe start a store, and I'm gambling, and I'm, you know, getting on the phone, and I'm just worrying about the world, and getting right back into them same modes of behavior, fighting, and all the nonsense that comes along with that mode of thinking. You know, prison was a badge of honor, and I was, you know, this big one, and all these things, and all these ridiculousness that we put in our minds. But this 4th time, you know, I was facing 19 years. It wasn't a skid bid, you know, it wasn't a 3 or a 4 or a 5 like I had previously, and it made me very nervous. Maybe it attributed to me having that rock bottom and that change. Like, no, I'm 30. I was in my early 30s at the time. I go, I can't do 20. You know, I can't do it. So I had to change, and I started going, okay, I'm going to go to a different unit. I dropped, you know, I suggested for myself, you can do that once you've been in and out of the prison system. You get a little bit of clout. You go, hey, I want to go here. I asked to go to the maximum security prison. That way I couldn't be involved with all the nonsense. I was locked in my cell 23 hours a day. I used the hour usually to work out, but on one particular day, I decided, man, I need to get some new reading material. I want to go down to the library. So I'm in Bayside State Prison, and it's 2011 or 2012, and I meet a gentleman there, an inmate that had been in there for 25 years. You're in there for that long, you get the good job. So he was the librarian. He had the ODR food, which is the officers' dining food, which is many levels above what we were eating. And because we were from the same area and we had some similarities, he offered me some food. We sat in the library, we ate, we broke bread, and we started talking about books. He brought to me a manual, thick packet of papers, an instructional manual that was donated to the prison by a Buddhist temple in northern New York. Thank you for that, because that right there changed my life. I took that manual back to my cell, 23 hours a day to get into that thing, man, and I got into it. That manual described how to sit, how to breathe, how to stretch, how to think. And that is what I needed. It's like, I remember being in a halfway house and the guy's going, you got to change your thinking. You got to change your thinking. And I raised my hand and go, I want to change my thinking. How do I do it? I don't want to think about women and drugs and booze and violence all the time and gambling. I don't want to think about that. How do I change my thinking? And the guy stood there, blank as day, you know, a big time teacher getting paid to go all the halfway houses. He couldn't answer my question. The Buddhists, although I'm a Christian now, I am so grateful for that philosophy of life, because it told me how to think. And in one of the books that I read, the Dalai Lama spoke about how most Buddhists view negative thoughts as the enemy. So that's one thing that I understood. I understood fighting. You know, I didn't understand the type of fighting that I needed to do now. And that's what I started doing. When I started getting negative thoughts, boom, swipe left on, swipe. Oh, that's right. That's the good ones. Go this way. You know, so I get these thoughts, boom, I don't want that one. I don't want that one. That one doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve my purpose. It doesn't serve the highest possible goals that I can obtain to, that is going to, you know, create impact on this world for the good. So when I started getting rid of them negative thoughts, that was the spark. And then the meditating, because the meditating is you facing all of your demons. And a lot of people, God, I don't know how to meditate. I can't get my brain to shut up. That's not really the point. The point is the discipline of sitting, calming yourself. And if you face negative thinking, if you face demons, because a lot of people, what will happen during meditation is everything uncomfortable is going to come up. Everything that you blocked mentally because it hurt, because it was painful, because it was traumatic, it's going to come up. And then all your guilts, your shames, your fears, it's all going to come up. But what in essence this is your demons coming out to play. And if you can sit through that, face it, you don't have to do anything. Just don't let it discourage you. Don't let it make you get up. Don't let it make you stop meditating. Don't let it make you not try again. And you sit through it, eventually you'll come to calm. And when you come to that calm space, what you're going to realize is you just fought your demons and you won. Now, it doesn't mean that the war is over. The battle is won. But they're in the back. They're doing push-ups. They're like, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. And they're waiting for that chink in the armor. And what that chink in the armor is you to stop meditating. You to stop praying. You to stop doing physical exercise. You to stop thinking positively. You to stop getting outside and doing all these different things. The formula that we talk about on the podcast is your own. Well, mine is the prayer, the yoga, the meditation, the breath work. We get deeper with it with sauna time, cold water therapy, red light therapy, breath work, and all these different things. But yeah, that's where it starts. Meditation will give you the clarity to figure out everything in your life. And I firmly believe that no matter what religion, ethnicity that you are, meditation is the universal form of like fixing your life, to put it in an articulate way. And it did it for me.
So would you like, that kind of makes me think like, do you think that when people get their vices or whatever, that's what they think is the way to try to kind of mute the all the, like you said, the insecurities and the all their demons? You think that's the way that they try to make it better, pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, I think that each person is different. I think that all cases of vices are circumstantial, but I think that is a generalization. I think that that's absolutely true, and it was for myself. You know, the reason why not when I started getting high. You know, I was growing up in a certain area. We were smoking weed and all these different things. It was almost like normal. But when I started escalating, it was because of my demons, my thoughts, the nonstop nonsense that ran through my brain all day long. And then when it really ended up with, and I couldn't get to sleep. And then I think insomnia breaks a lot of people, where I just wanted to use so that I could sleep. And then when I would wake up, I would want to use because I wanted to silence everything in here that, just like you said, I didn't want it. I was ashamed of, I was guilty of it. I was fearful of it, you know, and we all deal with our own individual demons, but the vices that you speak of, I think they are the deafening those out, and the being able to rest, and the being able to relax, or the being able to sleep, or the self-medication. You know, a lot of people, they're just going through different things. And with today's medical establishment, it's just a business. They're giving you one pill that's going to get you on another one and get you on another one. They're not helping you. And that's my whole problem. And that's what I speak about, you know, on the podcast. Is like, we don't need these things. We need to really eliminate more things from our lives than we need to add to get it together. But yeah, vices are a way of deafening and drowning things that exist in your body, in your mind, in your soul. And the vices do nothing but add to the problem. Maybe they silence it for a minute, but they all return, and a lot of times they return tenfold when it's over. And then hence the cycle of addiction, because now, you know, you silenced it, you've gotten rid of it, you didn't worry about it, you had your good time, but then now when that all wears off, now you're feeling it, you're feeling the pain 10 times more. And the problem, because you ignored it, is now growing. And now you're even more desperate and depressed. So now, boom, you used again. And then it puts you in that vicious cycle of addiction. And addiction is not only drugs and drinking. I mean, people do a lot of different things to numb themselves of the pain of something that they're going through. And this is shopping, spending too much money, scrolling on social media and technology, or eating too much. You know, there's a lot of different things that people don't look at. And if you dive into the details of your life and really get a grapple on whatever your vices are, you're going to level up. You're going to hit that next level.
You know, I found myself kind of checking myself a little bit. You see, I've been sipping on this coffee, and you mentioned, you know, as far as like caffeine, I mean, I probably drink 3 cups of coffee a day. And the first one comes off the wake up, like 4:30 in the morning. I'm up, I'm going out to work, making a cup of coffee, walking out the door with it. And I think you might have mentioned like, you know, wait a couple hours till after you wake up or something like that. But I'm like,
yeah.
I had to kind of like check myself. Like, I'm immediately, like, before I eat, I'm drinking coffee.
Well, I mean, I think that I mentioned those things, and that is not for me. It's from Dr. Andrew Huberman, who's a neuroscientist out of Stanford University. And he just speaks about if you were able to wait 90 minutes after you wake up, then there's processes in the brain that are fully, done. And the caffeine will not just block the chemicals that make you feel tired, it'll actually work more effectively. And I may be butchering it a little bit, but that is the proximity of what he was talking about, and that's what I was talking about. But I wouldn't feel bad about that. I mean, I think that I actually commend you for taking notice of it, and thank you for listening, by the way. That hey, man, I'm like a slave to this coffee. Like as soon as I wake up, I'm on it, and I just be fair with you, I have a hard time with that one too. And I hope that I mentioned it when I was talking about it.
Oh, you did.
Some days I make it 90 days. Some days I make it 90 minutes without even thinking about it. Other days I don't make it 15 minutes. I mean, I think that it's a very small vice, but I do think that I think that if you're able to eliminate caffeine from your life totally, I think that you'd be a healthier, happier human being, like in general, but also, caffeine's tough, man.
It's tough.
It's tough.
Tough.
It's a good one.
Yeah, very tough. I've been drinking coffee since probably college. Like
I'm right there with you too, man. I'm been struggling with that one for a while. Probably the last of my vices that I really need some help with. I enjoy it too much.
Yeah, like I'll drink coffee at night. Like I don't necessarily I'll drink it at night, middle of the day. Like it don't have to be just in the morning for me. I enjoy drinking coffee. Like it's crazy. I just want to take a second, kind of salute your interviewing style. Like, when I'm listening, sometimes the host can kind of overtalk or, things like that. But I just noticed with your interview, you kind of let your guests just do their thing. And you move it along or whatever, but just, it's not really a question or anything, just kind of a salute to your interview style. Something else I wanted to ask you. Oh, so labels, crazy, depressed, ADHD. How do you feel about them? You kind of touched on it one episode, but I was like, yeah, I got to ask him, how do you feel about labels? Because you seem to have a lot of control over your brain right now. Like, that's the thing some people don't have. So
yeah, well, it takes development, and it's just like what you were talking about with the interviewing style. I mean, if you go back into maybe like my first year of podcasting was really just me. I had so much to say, but then like year 2 I started picking up some guests, and if you listen to those, you may hear me overtalk some people, because I'm very excited about what I have to say, and I'm even excited about what the guests are saying. So I definitely can think back on some episodes where maybe me and the guest were bumping words. Over time and evolving the show and doing so many solo episodes, I realized like people hear what I say and they hear it, probably 80% of my shows are solo. So when it's guest time, let's hear what the guest has to say and let's see what I can learn. So it all comes with development and work and evolution. It's the same thing with the mind and the mental control. Whereas just like with the caffeine, man, I barely make it 90 minutes, probably 2 or 3 times a week, and others I fail. But even that has come from development. The labels, it's a touchy one. A lot of people want to label themselves certain things, and to me, it's just an excuse. I know that there are valid and legitimate situations, whether it's health or this or that stifle progress or may limit your potential on things that you're able to do in this world. But I also think that there's it's going to get me in trouble. There's so many lazy, stupid people, and they're looking for a way out. They're looking for some kind of victimhood. They're looking for a label. Well, I'm ADHD. ADHD is bullshit. Excuse my language. You put a kid in a class for 8 hours straight, and you put yourself in a class for 8 hours straight, and see if you don't develop ADHD real quick. It comes from us living our life in a very unnatural way. It comes from the rule that we have, the way that the establishment puts in the structure. And that's why we talk about creating greatness, and I'm going to talk about right here is we're breaking that structure. We're no longer oh, we want to be career women and we don't need no man or man. We want to be players and have all these different women. Like, no, we're bringing traditional values back. We're bringing family values back. The biggest joy of my life was meeting my wife and having children. And as soon as my kids were able to go to a doctor or go to a school, it was, oh, they may have this or they need a vaccine. That I'm homeschooling. Bye.
Mhm.
And that's what I've been doing, and I feel like that they have a label for every little minor tick in the world that you may have. Oh, it's this, it's that. And as soon as you give yourself that label, you give yourself a cop out. You give yourself a cop out. Well, I don't even have to try anymore because I have this. I hear it all the time. And I entertain it because I want to have a message that is all inclusive. We all want better lives. It's something that unites us, no matter who or what you are or what you believe in. We all want to have a good quality of life. Most of us are trying to be happy, and most of us want to be peaceful. It's a uniting factor, and it's something that I talk about regularly. But the labels things may be something that I do not, because I don't want to exclude people. I don't want people to get angry at me. But since you asked, that's how I feel, man. I think that if you put a label on yourself, you're giving yourself an excuse, a cop out, and you're also making yourself a victim, which those three things in your life, it's going to be almost impossible for you to live a happy, healthy, and successful life. Now, if you do have one of those labels and it's absolutely valid and legitimate, now you have to think outside the box. What is the medical establishment telling me? Because that's probably bullshit. Or if it is any truth, I'm going to take a 1% of that and I'm going to dive into everything else that I could do to combat this problem and see how that works. I'll give you a quick example of it. I was going bald a couple years ago, and my dad's bald, my grandfather's bald, my brother's bald, and I could have just went, you know what? It's just in my DNA. I'm just going to be bald. But, I said, no friggin' way am I accepting that I can't do nothing about it. So I went into Google. I went into the books. I figured it out. It was a 3-pronged system that I did. I stopped doing certain things. I added a little more protein into my diet, and I added different oils and things to my hair. Dude, my hair's thick and full, almost thick and full as this beard right here. And that may be a silly example, but it is something that life handed me that I could have said, just my DNA. It's just like this one is my worst, least favorite saying that anyone in the world will ever say to you. And if they do, get them out of your life ASAP. That's just how I am. If I was to tell my wife that's just how I am year one, I'd be divorced. So I'm not into that. I'm into keeping the family unit together. I'm into keeping the family unit strong. I'm into combating the powers that be that want to keep you enslaved and trapped in the matrix. And so I'm not going to put any labels on me or my family. And if I do hold one to be valid or legitimate, I'm going to search every single angle, option, and potential route that I could go to combat that label.
Yeah, I like that, man. That's I don't disagree or agree, but what you're saying makes sense. It's valid. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, makes sense.
Well, I don't say it to
I
dismiss
don't label
anyone.
myself, you know what I mean? But I just.
Well, I think that I don't want to dismiss anyone. I can get a little passionate about it and a little bit animated, and I don't want to dismiss any real valid labels that people place upon ourselves. I just want people to understand that when you place a label on yourself, you're putting yourself in a box. You're putting yourself in a hole. And we are meant to be limitless beings, and more things unite us than divide. Like, I'm a Caucasian, Christian, Floridian, American. But if I put myself in those holes, I'm not being everything that I could possibly be. It's like I used to have this problem with over-identifying with people. What are you? Well, when I was at school, I'm an athlete. And then when I moved on, well, I'm a rapper. Or when I moved on, it was I'm this or I'm only this. And what I didn't realize, I'm the workout guy. I'm this. And what I didn't realize is was like, just because you are those things doesn't mean you just have to be that thing. Like, let's insert, I have anxiety and depression, which I don't, but let's just say that. Okay, I have those things, but I'm not those things. I am an athlete. I am a writer. I am this, but I'm also a limitless being in an infinite, ever expanding universe. And I want to tap into like that, man. I don't want to put myself in well, I'm white or I'm Christian or I'm this. You understand what I'm saying? So I definitely don't mean to dismiss anybody's labels or genres or paths that they've taken. I just would like to encourage folks to have that, but understand that you're so much more.
Yeah, don't limit yourself. So last thing I want to ask, it could be a little loaded. Actually, it is very loaded. But I feel like I can ask you.
One was loaded.
You say, yeah, right? I feel like I can ask you this because you've made it clear that you think deeper than most people, I think. So what do you think is the purpose of life?
I loaded. It's like totally impossible question to answer. But I do look deeper, and I think that because every time I said this statement, it's not that deep. It turned out to be that deep.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out to be even deeper than I thought. But, you know, a lot of people struggle with this, the purpose of life. Why are we here? And it always intrigues me because it was never necessary for me to really understand what the purpose of life was for me to enjoy it. I mean, there's so many enjoyable things in life that, like, well, what's the purpose of it, though? I don't really know. What I've found in my life is that, you know, during those years of darkness and destruction, I couldn't find purpose or passion in anything. I hated myself, hated the world, and it was miserable. Like I said before, I wanted to die. Now, as I move forward in a life of happiness, joy, and peace, and contentment, the things that bring me the most amount of purpose, I think, is unique. I mean, I think that there are some generalizations. Family. I mean, that's why I get so angry with the attacks on the family unit, because it's like they don't want people to experience this. That's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing. The most awesome and amazing thing that ever has happened to me was meeting my wife and having my children. You know, I recently took a trip away from my kids for the second time ever, and I just couldn't wait to get back to them. And the few days leading up to me getting back into the podcast realm, I just spent with my kids, man. And I was just so happy. I mean, the smile was huge. They're laughing and they're playing and they're getting along and they're out here in the Florida sunshine, enjoying themselves. And the day is ours. Like, it's my time. It's their time. No one has obligations for us. They're not running the school. I'm not running the work, you know. And it brought me so much peace, joy, and contentment in those moments. I tend to think that, like, family and community and relationships to be the purpose of life. And I guess I would be remiss if I didn't mention faith. And it doesn't have to be faith in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but I do think that having a belief in something, man, that this just isn't random chaotic events, having that belief, whether it be in any God or any energy, the universal energy that creates all things, it runs through us all, it's in us all, it's in all things, plants, animals, even inanimate objects to some degree, and feeling that I'm part of that, man, this limitless, expansive universe. But we have been given this spark of divinity to experience life on this level. You know, if you believe in the afterlife and the energy of the soul going somewhere else to do something else when this is all over, and maybe that's more important, but you got to think, well, we wanted to be here for a reason. We wanted to be in this body for a reason. Maybe it was so we could experience the sun on our skin, the feet in our grass, the touch of a loved one, the taste of a delicacy, and all these different wonderful, amazing experiences. But and that is the purpose of life to me. But to move into a more personal space, it is to grow, man. I mean, I am very close to starting a farm, opening up a farm. I've been gardening and growing my own food for a few years now. And man, when you walk outside and, you know, you see tomatoes bursting with life, and you took that tomato from a seed, put it in the dirt, and now you're eating the tomatoes. Same thing with cucumbers. I have some cucumbers. I have some cabbages, different things. And it may sound silly and ridiculous, but, you know, gardening and growing has been leveling up my life beyond anything that I could possibly talk about here. Just doing it, seeing it, watching it grow, nurturing life, it enhances your life as well. But also in setting the standard for taking myself and my family and my loved ones out of the matrix and showing people how to do it. And that's what the farm's for. That's what the chickens are for my eggs. That's what the farm is for all my veggies and fruits. That's what the bees are going to be for the honey. And that way, you know, we know how to do it all. I'm going to teach my kids how to hunt, how to fish, how to collect and clean water. So if anything happens anywhere, anytime, anyway, even when I'm out of the picture, then my boys, they're going to have what they need to make it happen, and they're going to know how to do it. And that's the legacy that I want to live.
Hey, man. Hey, and legacy, that's, I'm not going to drag it, but legacy is one of the most important things to me. I talk about it all the time. I tell my kids about their name and how much their name means. And, you know, because even like just in school right now, like your name is all you got. I'm telling them, like, what you put behind your name is going to follow you forever. Like, yeah, just that word legacy just caught me when you just said it, man. Yeah.
Well, it is, man. It's what we're leaving behind. You know, I think that everyone has their mark to make, and maybe we're not all presidents or generals or, you know, CEOs, but we all have a legacy. We all have something worthwhile to leave for the people that will be here after us, man. And that's our great work. And I believe everyone has it. You don't have to be Aristotle or Plato. And I just talked about it. And we're talking about it here again, man. Find your great work. Find your passion. Find what's going to get you out of the 9-to-5 grind. Find what, if you are stuck in a 9-to-5 and you maybe like your job, but find out what is for you. What is the great work? What is the legacy that you will leave behind for your loved ones and everyone else in the world to enjoy?
For sure, man. Look, so I want to appreciate you for taking the time coming to speak to me, man. You know, where can people find your socials, your podcast, everything?
Well, you guys know, as it says right here on the screen, King of Comebacks with 2 Ks. That's how you'll find me on all social media outlets, except for TikTok. It's Creating Greatness Podcast. The podcast is Creating Greatness Podcast. That's where you're going to get the blueprint, everything that I've talked about here. It's all for free, and it's on Spotify. It's everywhere, but I like to streamline on Spotify. That's where the most unfiltered raw content is, and then you also get the clips and the explanations and everything with it. But yeah, man, I mean, I appreciate you. If you want to talk to me about anything that I talked about here, or book me on the show, or maybe come on my show, the email is creatinggreatnesspodcast@gmail.com, all lowercase. And I thank you for having me, brother, and I thank you all for listening in.
For sure. All right, man. Till next time.
Hey, man, thank you.
Sure.
It's been an absolute pleasure.